Is this Ardnamurchan Rum Cask Release one of the brand's finest, or is it not that? I'm Jeff, this is G Whiskey, stick around. Okay, the Ardnamurchan Rum Cask Release. This is the bottle that, I'll be honest, I was a little bit skeptical about. I do like my whiskey, I like my rum, and they can work well together, but they don't always. I do think you need the right whiskey and the right master blender to marry the rum cask and the distillate successfully, and when it's done well, it can be fantastic, but when it's not, it does come off a little bit off kilter. But luckily this is Ardnamurchan, who are known for their quality distillate and for working well with a variety of different casks. Of course, they've done a lot of work with the classics. You get stuff like bourbon or Oloroso or PX sherry, but they do play around with plenty of other stuff. They played around with Madeira and Sauternes. Some of their best work has been done with champagne casks. Plenty of others, I'm sure, that I can't think of off the top of my head. So a rum Ardnamurchan could work. In fact, it should work. I have a lot of faith in this brand. They could finish a whiskey in a barrel of crude oil and I'd try it. Not because I think it would be good, it's just I'm down to party. Anyway, this one is a limited release from last year in 2023. They put out 8,334 bottles. Mine is bottle 683, finished in Caribbean rum casks, although we don't know from where specifically. Now, I'm not sure if this is a batch release or a one-off. I think it might be the latter, but don't hold me to that. And like I said, this is one that I was kind of skeptical about, but luckily I did get to try it before I bought it when their brand ambassador Connell came to a Taipei whiskey show last year. And I remember trying it and thinking, okay, yeah, that's pretty interesting. I would like to pick up a bottle. But then Connell said, no dummy, you're in Taiwan. You guys can't get this in 2023. You have to wait until the middle of 2024 to get your grubby little mitts on it. And then he gave me the finger and punched me in the nuts. That's a lie. He didn't do that. He was lovely. But yes, it is a thing here in Taiwan. The joys of living here is that we often have to wait a very long time to get our hands on new releases. But luckily for me, I'm a patient alcoholic enthusiast, so I waited, and here we are a year later with a bottle on hand. So let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into our review of this stuff. In the meantime, if you'll kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. As always with Ardnamurchan, we have great specs here. This one comes in at 55% ABV, which for me is right in the sweet spot. And of course, it's non-chill filtered and natural color. For the look of this bottle, I think it's fine. It's definitely not my favorite Ardnamurchan. I think that comes down to the color scheme. I'm not a huge fan of the aqua color scheme. I don't think it suits the bottle that well, which is an absolutely minor gripe and has nothing to do with the quality of the whiskey. But there you go. I always talk about this stuff anyway. For look, this bottle gets 3 out of 5. As usual, it says non-chill filtered and natural color on the label, which is always appreciated, and this does have a beautiful color to it, which the website describes as autumn birch leaf, pale but vibrant. Yeah, nice. We also get the QR code that takes us to the website where we get the bottle number and the production info, so as always with Ardnamurchan, we get plenty of information, great transparency, and yeah, nice enough bottle. On the nose, shockingly, there are some rum notes in the Ardnamurchan Rum Cask Release. We also get some very faint peat in here. It's a very gentle peat, and it's not smoke, it's earthy peat. Also, we get the classic Ardnamurchan coastal notes. We get some zingy citrus in here. They're very fresh citrusy notes with lemons, grapefruit, limes. We also get some vanilla sponge cake in here and some buttercream icing, which I stole from the website's tasting notes. Really nice nose. On the palate and finish, this is very full and very bright up top. Once again, I'm getting that vanilla sponge cake with buttercream icing. There's some nuts in here too. There's banana nut sundae with some caramel drizzled on top. Again, we get that faint, earthy kind of peat, some coastal notes, and some honey nougat, like those crunchy bars. I don't know if you've had those. Medium finish. Okay, so this is good stuff, and it is a classic rum cask influence. And rum casks, for me, they're kind of interesting because they're basically the antithesis of something like a sherry or a wine cask. So sherry or wine casks, they tend to make the whiskey feel a little bit heavier, give it more weight, give it more intensity, and they'll round out some of the rougher edges. Oppositely, you have the rum casks, which tend to give the whiskey a little bit more pep. So they'll feel lighter, crisper, cleaner, sometimes more sharp, more prickly, that's true, but they'll take the whiskey in a more summery direction. And that did happen here. This is a vibrant, brighter, cleaner, more tropical Ardnamurchan. It is on the sharper side of their range. So you have these zingy citrus notes, almost prickly at times. For me, it's not a bother, and water does help round that out, but that might bother some of you. And I don't think that prickliness is all from the rum casks. I think that is a bit of the spirit's youth shining through. Again, not a big issue for me, and it's not going to be for most of you, but it is something to take note of. This is a very summery Ardnamurchan. It's definitely the most like bright and clean Ardnamurchan I've ever had. So if you're looking for a bottle from these guys that you're going to take on your next big Caribbean vacation, yeah, man. Am I allowed to make a Jamaican accent? Yes? Another thing here that I think some people might take issue with is that, broadly speaking, this is a pretty linear whiskey. It doesn't develop much. It's pretty much just a straight line of flavor, if that makes sense. And listen, I know it sounds like I'm bashing this whiskey. I'm not. I actually do quite enjoy it, but I do have some notes. But it's not a whiskey without its strengths. I do think that the gentle peat in here works really nicely with the rum cask influence. Interestingly, I found something similar with that 11-year-old Caribbean rum Nick Offerman Lagavulin from a while back. I think that was also a 2023 release. The peat and the rum worked well together there, and they work well together here. And of course, this is an Ardnamurchan, so the brand's signatures are all over this stuff. We get that oiliness, we get those coastal elements, and I think those zingy citrusy notes and the vanilla, especially if water is added, work very nicely here. And I suppose I just appreciate the fact that this is kind of a new direction. It's something different from the brand, even though it tastes a bit younger and more prickly than a lot of their other releases. I don't think it's their best work, but it is undeniably enjoyable and unique. So for score, I'm gonna land on 84 here, which is a solid score, and I think it's a solid whiskey, but I think it would benefit from being a little bit more settled, maybe some more time in the casks. This whiskey actually reminds me of the Oban 11 Diageo Special Release from 2023. Now, I like that Oban a lot more than I like this whiskey, but for both, I feel like, okay, you have a rum cask influence here. Was it necessary? Is the rum influence good? Yes. Did it add some fun and interesting flavors? Also, yes. But did it make the whiskey better, and was it necessary? Maybe, maybe not. But listen, as long as you're on board with that brighter and yes, zingier, more prickly side of Ardnamurchan, like I said, this is a different experience. It's not like anything else I've had from them, so it is worth checking out. And 84 is still very much a recommendation. It's an enjoyable whiskey, so yeah, check this one out. Now, before we jump into value, I do want to say a quick thank you to all of you who are supporting the channel. If you're on Patreon, if you're a channel member, guys, thank you very much. And if you want to help out, there are a number of ways that you can do that. I've got both Patreon and PayPal linked down below. Anything and everything helps. And now let's see if this is worth the money. So for value here, I think it's good. I don't think it's great, but it's good. This whiskey costs about 80 US in my market. That's roughly 60 pounds. And for a fully natural whiskey with a good intensity of 55% and what I consider to be a relatively successful rum cask influence, not one of the best ones, but a solid one. Yeah, it's worth the money because it is an interesting, unique, and yes, enjoyable experience. So worth checking out. Okay, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And of course, I want to hear your thoughts on this Ardnamurchan Rum Cask Release. Now, I like it, but I'll admit I'm a little bit lukewarm on it, but I know there are plenty of people out there who are big fans of this stuff. So where do you land on this stuff? Let me know down below. Finally, down below, you can also let me know what you want to see me review down the line, and I'll keep that in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.